Alright, my name's Jeff, and this is Hawkeye Marine. It's like a little stinger, you know. My name is Jeff, and this is Hawkeye Marine. Alright, I got a bunch of work that's going on. A bunch. It's ridiculous, kind of. Got this old 18 horsepower Johnson. And I don't know if some of this I gotta get her done mode. This really should be, so I think it really should be titled March, April update. So we got this little 18 horsepower Johnson. It's a 63. It had electric start, and the starter went out on it. We've got a hole in the intake. We're going to try to fix and delete the starter because that will never ever, it's too much pressure, and you hook it up to a modern battery with a whole bunch of cranking amps, and it'll just blow that dude out. And I think that's probably what happened to that. So we have a complete system. We have the switch, we have the solenoid, we got the starter and the bracket. The bracket has to go back on the motor. We got the complete ignition starter circuit for this old Johnson, and this is and I labeled it, it's a good 4223 1963 Johnson Evinrude 18 horsepower. What we'll have to do though is we're gonna have to we need this bracket. So you're gonna remove the starter, and it's held in place by these two screws right here, and that comes off. But you also need the solenoid, and then we have the switch. But you need this for the starter, the rope start, because this bracket holds the shifting, and then you have a hole here that locates the starter prowl, the rope start to here. I don't know how to say this right, but you have a rope start. So this one didn't have a rope starter, for one. And then this looks to me, or appears to me, that somebody added this on. When they added it on, I don't have a clue. But they drilled a hole in the side, and they added this switch to go to this here. But it didn't have it's a points motor. So it didn't have any way to charge the battery back. So you only had the battery for as long as you ran out of battery, and then you had to go back to a rope start. So we got a rope start that's on its way, and it should be here, and I'll get that fixed. And as far as the hole, we're just gonna JB weld it back, and you're not gonna connect a starter to it, so there's no pressure. And this is a clean break where we can fix this back to a pull rope. It does need a new, I was feeling this, and this feels pretty tired, so I may have to try to locate this. And but the carburetor and the rester, all that is still here. So even the side bolt, and the side bolt's still on it, and it still has the old school pump. Getting the kit for these, I don't know where to get the kit. If you guys know, let me know. I've already tested it. There is a little bit here. It's like about 105 on both cylinders. So she's down some. Moving on. So what we got over here is a Mercury. It's an 88. We looked it up. 80 horsepower, inline 3-cylinder, 80 horsepower. Okay, the backstory on this, I'm not even going to explain this right. I may have to do this video again. So you notice it's on a stand. Alright, I got this stand because, talk about this, I almost need to write a script. Some of this stuff is like a movie. So the story on that motor is that a guy bought it for it's a pontoon boat. It was on a pontoon boat. He wanted a pontoon boat, so he got a pontoon boat. The problem that I have where I'm at, I don't have space for really large pontoons. And so I started out, I had a few over here, and I was like, man, I can't do that again. I had to decide, well, what size do I do, right? I kind of limited myself down to like 20-footer. Like I work on a 20-footer, but beyond that, it's like I don't work on them. And so like the 24-footers, the 26-footers, man, that's a big boat, Anyway, so Norval wanted to bring me this motor, and so he said, man, I'll just bring you the motor. And I'm thinking 80 horsepower clamp-on motor, and I wasn't really thinking about it, to be honest with you. And he brings it over, and I look at it, and it is not a clamp-on motor. This motor is a bolt-on motor. Okay, oh crap. Well, here you go. What are you gonna do now there, fella? That is a clamp-on motor. And Larry, I still need to get to this. I swear I'll do it. This is a bolt-on motor. So we got a pattern here, and then, it bolts up to something. So when Norval brings it over, I'm like, oh, I don't really have a stand like that I can bolt this on. Like I put it up on my lift, and we got it off his truck, but then I'm like, I have to, so I was thinking I'm gonna have to make something or whatever. This is funny. Anyways, he's like, man, I got a piece of metal that's just been out there. And he's, man, we got to talking about it. The short of it is like, he's like, man, it's been out there for like 12 years. It's just in my scrap pile. And I thought, well, one of these days, I'll need a leg off of it or a piece of iron, whatever, cut it off of it. Never did. He brought it over. So he brings it over, and, he tells me it's coming. And then I get a text I'm inside, I'm on the computer, I'm, eBaying and doing all that kind of stuff. And then I get a text from him that says, hey man, I dropped that stand off. And I'm like, what? I come out here, and it's like, it's out here, it's sitting out there, And I'm like, man, I didn't even hear him. He's like a cat. He just came in, and then the next thing you know, it's like, anyway, I came out, I was like, yeah, man. And so it was rusty, and it was all kinds of mucked up, And I thought, man, I'm just going to take I have a air, it's a grinding tool. You could put different things on it. I ran it all over it real quick. It didn't take very long. It was maybe 10-15 minutes, and it was ready for paint. And I was like, well, I didn't want to go spend any money on paint. So what I did was I was looking in there, and I had some Farmer Red paint. And I was like, I'll just paint it red, So I just stuck it out there in the yard and painted her red. She looks pretty good. Why we do that color, I don't know. But this stand was like this. Anyway, this stand, I painted it. Of course, I could do another, definitely another coat. I think that was really only like 2 coats total. But yeah, I cleaned it off again and painted it. And then I drilled holes. So I had it up here. It was real tall. I should have done a video on this. But I had another 6 inches up from the 2x6s, and I had already drilled these holes. And then I get it up there, and I'm like, man, this thing is way too tall. So we brought her down, and originally I had like a little 1/2-inch plate. Back here is just this here, it's pressure treated too before. These are not pressure treated, it should be. I had to go buy some bolts. When, of course, got some, I think it's 4.5-inch bolts, and then I must have grabbed one that was short, of course. I can always get another one. I think I even have, I have one. I need to replace that one. And then I bolted these in, which these is just what I had, and I think I had to buy 2. So I got these. Anyway, it works, and I was like, man, it's perfect. So the only trick to this is like when I get ready to do the lure unit, if I do the water pump, tilting it back, I haven't figured that one out yet. Because I don't want to be so top heavy that it would want. This is kind of uneven. That's the other thing. Like, it's still, so, and you do some shimming. See, that's kind of like it almost needs to be up more. Yeah, you see what I'm talking about. Anyway, but what's going on with this? All right, I don't know if the lighting is very good over here or not. So I compression tested this, and we got 110, 105, 102. This is a 3-cylinder. And so then I compression tested it and then did spark check. Yeah, but we got 3 coils. And so we had spark on 1 and 3, but we didn't have on 2. So what I did was swapped the inputs here and discovered that we didn't have it on 1, but we had it on 2. Is that right? Anyway, you swap them. So we had it on 1 before, but then we didn't have it on 2. And so then you swap them, and then we had it on 2, if I remember right, but we didn't have it on 1. You got to figure out, is it coming from here or is it coming from here? And the second test you do is when you take this off, measure your resistance from the spark plug lead to the coil, and even take out the lead if you need to, and do a continuity test of the line. And then on this coil, it ended up being bad. All right, thanks to another feller I won't say on here, but he donated one of these barrels, says he gets them. And so I cut the top off of this and put it up here. I think realistically, like, it needs to raise more and then we'll have to cut it down even some more. So right now my level is there, but we got a good 4 inches or so down to this. You can see what I'm talking about. Like it's down kind of. I mean, I don't think it's off by much, but I mean, it's probably, yeah, see, so the bottom of that is saying 5, so, if I come up another 2 inches, just take 2 inches off of this, probably that's the smarter things to do. I need to build like a little stool, too, that these go under, and then the bucket would fit. That's another idea. What else we got going on? All right, well, let me just tell you right here. We got this guy, and I think, what did I say, a 72. Shear pin was gone. So, I got a shear pin coming. I've already put gear oil in there. It looked fine. I replaced the seals, the drain plug seals. You got to do that a lot there, fellas, or otherwise you're screwed. Got that one pretty much done. It's just somebody's little John boat you can take out on the river. And then we got the 135 that I just did the water pump on, and I got to take that thing off and put the water pump, put the foot back on it, which I have back in the garage. So I was hoping to do that today, but it's kind of misty raining. Anyway, it's kind of misty raining. Anyway, the last thing is this old Merc. It's a Thunderbolt 850, and 85 horsepower. It's kind of getting to the age of like, man, this one, the problem with it is that need to remove the head and attempt to repair the head gasket. I'm gonna have to figure out what to do today because this misty rain has really kind of got me screwed up. I don't really want to put that lower unit on there if it's rated, and I really don't want to move both of those boats. Go ahead and hit that subscribe button, man. Hey, also I want to put a new throttle system on my boat. So I'm looking at that like here real soon. And I also want to take a little bit of a, look into this. It's not like they have this bolted through. They just have it locked. It's locked against the thing. So no, it's not moving. It's not a problem. But I feel like, this thing needs to be like almost bolted through. If it had two bolts, like, say one here and then one, I don't know, I'd have to miss that, but also seems like it needs a new pin. I think it needs a new pin, which I think I can buy. I try to keep them lubed up, and then I need to hit this part of it with some new paint, which I got some paint in there, and I could just, and it would be a lot better than it is. I'll tell you that right now. So I might get some aluminum color too, and just tape this off, hit it with the rattle can. Need to paint my chains. But yeah, that needs to be all addressed. Probably need a new rope. It's starting to look worn. So I think a new throttle system and then a new jack. I don't even know with the throttle system you need the jack. I have to figure that out. Some of my panels look really bad. Like this looks like a rivet you could never get. But I got some Bondo work here that I need to fix. And then I really hate to almost take these off because I don't know what's under here. But it needs to be resprayed. Once you get into that, then you're just like kind of screwing up a Champion trailer. But my Champion trailer needs to be addressed. Also, I got some welds that need to be fixed back here too. All right, so one thing on this little Johnson over here, I need to replace the fuel lines. And I went and got, I'm the big fan of the prime line on these little guys. I'm gonna have to J-wheel this back. Like the starter was with this bracket, what was happening is putting a lot of pressure. The only bolt it has really is this, and that connection goes to the intake housing. There should have been a better design, and I've seen this before a few times, and what I think is happening, you have a connection down here, so like they connect here and here to the engine, but that's it. That's all there really is. And then of course you have, if this is missing, which is your pull rope kind of deal, if this is missing, then like that stability is gone. It's just gone. So now, like, it's only held by these two bolts and then not by this bolt up here. So with all that force, what happened is it broke, the intake, busted it out. So you had a solenoid, you had a switch that went to the solenoid, so you had a ground, or you had a, remember that? Oh yeah, it went to hot, right, which was like over here. And then, I'm not sure how they had it wired, but this would have been here, and then this would have went to here, okay? And then you would have went out the battery to here. That's how that would have worked. So if you're going to sell this as one piece, because it does go to an old Johnson, then you would sell this, You'd sell this as all one working unit, because you have the switches this on, and then you have the motor. But this is why this failed, was because you didn't have the rope start connected, which gives the whole part of this engine starter more stability. So you imagine this pull rope, and it's tying here, and then it's tying to here, and then it's tied to the back of the engine. So then that thing being in place, once this was removed, was rocking, and it busted the intake right here. And it's really a sad, bad day. Could have all prevented. You can see there's a better light of it. Now I have the piece somewhere, and we're going to attempt to JB weld that back in place. But we won't be able to use a starter because there'd be too much pressure, even if we get the pull rope. So the plan is to simply buy a pull rope, and there won't be that much pressure. I don't believe that it'll break it. Who knows? We could give JB Weld a try. It might be enough to save the day. But you wouldn't want to, I don't think you'd want to maybe attempt to weld that. I guess you could. You'd have to take it completely apart, so you'd have it on a bench where then you could weld it. Yeah, you could do that. Or you could I think these are matched. This is another thing I don't know, is I think these are, I don't know if you could take an old engine and then we could put a different intake on it. I don't know. It's pretty much complete rebuild. If we can save this, we can salvage the engine. I'm not going much further than that. If I salvage this and I make this a good connection, then we can go ahead and I can do my fuel lines, do all that other stuff. It doesn't make sense to go ahead and do the fuel lines right now, so I'm going to wait. But as soon as I find that piece and JB welded up, it'll take me a day or two. I want it to let it sit and cure real good. And then once it's cured real good, then we'll go ahead and move on. I got a bunch of other work as it is. I would like to show you guys that engine firing over, and you can see the spark on 1 and 2. And then I have another coil that it's an old coil that I've already checked, and it's a good coil. So we can swap it and see if we get spark, and then we can move on from there. So anyway, thanks for watching. Subscribe. We'll see you next time on Hawkeye Marine.